For all the latest community news and events.
103.2 Preston FM.
Your community, your radio.
I don't know if you know, but this week is Volunteers Week. Now, I'm sure volunteers are the lifeblood of this country. Many years ago, we turned to agencies, didn't we, most of the time? And over the years, we've seen cutbacks, we've seen some agencies disappear, and we've seen such an increase in volunteering that it does seem that volunteering is the lifeblood of the country. Volunteers Week is an annual event which takes place on the 1st to the 7th of June. It celebrates the contribution made by millions of volunteers across the UK. It's run by NCVO in partnership with Volunteer Development and Volunteer Now and the Wales Council for Voluntary Action, and from showcasing the different volunteering roles on offer, there are taster sessions, team challenges with new partners, recruitment events, many ways of getting involved with volunteering across the country. And to talk about volunteering here in Preston, and one of the agencies who use volunteers in Preston, it's lovely to welcome my guest into the studio this morning. It's Margaret, and Margaret is from Preston Samaritans. So Margaret, a very good morning to you. And let me make certain I've got your microphone on. We'll try that one again. Good morning, Margaret.
Good morning.
Thank you. It's lovely to meet you. Before we talk about volunteering itself, could we talk about the Samaritans and maybe here in Preston? Everybody knows of the Samaritans and they see posters around and maybe telephone numbers. Has the work of the Samaritans over the years changed? Do we have different calls these days and maybe from younger people than ever before?
I think it's always similar type of calls that we get, but maybe the biggest change is that we now do email and SMS responses as well as the telephone, which is the obvious one, and of course the old correspondence branch, which is still going.
And I was looking on the website this morning, and the statement on the Samaritans website is, "I found a way to be myself." And that is often the situation, isn't it, for lots of people, that maybe they are in a difficult situation. They don't know who to talk to. Maybe they don't have family or friends, or maybe they do have family and friends, but they feel unable to talk to family and friends, and they need just to have that contact with another human being.
I think it's because we're anonymous and we're strictly confidential that people can say absolutely anything to us and they know it won't go any further than us. And if you say it to family and friends, once you've said it, you can't unsay it. And so it might, once you've got out of that difficult situation that you're in, there's a constant reminder that somebody else in your family might know that you were so desperate at one stage that you did maybe consider taking your own life or harming yourself. Whereas if you said it to a stranger, who the stranger will never meet and don't even know whereabouts in the country they are, then they can carry on, pick up the pieces and carry on with their life as it was before.
And is it a fact that maybe sometimes people know what they want to do, but it's actually by talking anonymously to that stranger that it actually confirms in their own mind the action that they do need to take?
Yeah, we definitely don't give advice. That is one of the things we stress, that we're not an advice service. But what we can do is give the caller time to think about it, time to discuss their options. And maybe sometimes they've even decided what they're going to do, but just want to use us as a sounding board. And sometimes during a call, you can actually almost hear the penny drop that that's what they want to do. Mm. We never ever talk anybody out of taking their own life, which might surprise some people. But what we do is give people time to explore all their options. And if it is really what they want to do, then who am I or any of the other Samaritans to say that they must carry on living? But what we try and do is say, well, have you considered this, or would you consider that, or have you done this, and put all the options to them and then leave them to make the final decision as to what. But you don't have to be suicidal to ring Samaritans.
No, I know from talking to people over the years that people sometimes because they're lonely, or maybe they've lost a loved one, or they've lost a pet who is also a loved one. It can be just at that time you just need somebody, another human being to...
Yeah, like you say, it can be anything from what may seem trivial to somebody else, like losing a pet, which, if that's your only companion, it can be an awful big part of your life. It can be debt, it could be relationship problems, pressure at work, you name it, we get it. And we never turn any call away unless it's an inappropriate call, and then we sometimes have to end the call.
So the use now of modern technology, as we said, SMM, emails, etc., does that mean that the volume of the contact has greatly increased?
Yeah, the SMS, I suppose, is the biggest one. Not all branches are doing it yet. Preston branch is one of the branches that does SMS. Most, I think I'm right in saying that all branches now do email, and that's quite a big one, because we get quite a lot of emails from across the world, and you can tell that by the language they use. The Americans talk about mom and condominiums, which of course we don't have condominiums in this country. So yeah, we do get them, because not a lot of other countries have the service that we provide.
And as we say, the contact is anonymous, the conversation rather. Do the Samaritans do face-to-face?
Yes, we do face-to-face in Preston during daylight hours, we say. So it's usually from if we're open from 9 till 9, and you can pop in at any time to our branch, which is on St Wilfrid Street, and call in for a chat if that's what you want. And if we're open, we're quite happy to talk to you.
Right. And before we talk about volunteering in general, Margaret, I take it you are a volunteer with Samaritans.
A listening volunteer, yes.
A listening volunteer. Are there different types then?
We have support volunteers, which just some maybe come in and just do paperwork or administration or photocopying, fundraising. If somebody doesn't want to be what we call a listening volunteer, then we can always find something for them to do.
Right.
There's always something to do.
And if not too personal, can I ask why you became a listening volunteer?
I think I've always been involved in things to do with the children when my children were growing up, PTAs, etc. I was on the governors, and when my children left school, I thought, oh, now what am I going to do? And I felt like doing something that wasn't child orientated. So just as it happened, when I was thinking about that, there was an appeal on the television for more volunteers, something similar to what I'm doing now. And I just thought, oh, that sounds interesting. So I looked into finding out more about what was involved and how to go about it.
Right. It must be, or not, as the case may be, but I would imagine when you're taking a call or you're talking with somebody or communicating with someone who maybe are thinking about taking their own life, how do you cope with that without emotionally feeling involved?
Well, the training you get before you're allowed on the phones is amazing. We've got a very good training team. And you're taught how to deal with things. You go probably through every eventuality that you're ever going to come across on the phones. The training is outstanding. And there's always at least two of you on duty in Preston branch. Other branches might have more, but Preston always have minimum of 2. So you support each other. You've always got duty support, which is a person who's available to contact by phone, and if necessary, they will shoot into the branch if you've had a particularly difficult call, and we support each other. It goes higher and higher. If your duty support can't give you the answers you want or support you want, then you go higher up to the directors and then to the director himself. And
I would take it that's invaluable that that support's there should you require it.
Not just when you're in the branch. I mean, say you've done a duty overnight and you go home and you've had a particularly difficult call and you're still a little bit uptight about it, upset about it the day after, or worried, then you just pick the phone up and ring one of the Samaritans yourself, and somebody you may have done your training with, somebody you might have done your training, your mentor. There's always somebody to talk to yourself. So we offload onto each other, and the support network is very, very good.
So how long have you been with the Samaritans?
I've been a Samaritan for 9 years now.
And has it been as you thought it would be at the beginning when you started to volunteer?
No, I thought, like most people, that every call you were going to get was going to be a life or death situation. And that isn't the case. The actual, what we call ongoing suicides, luckily are quite few in a week. We get an awful lot of people who are distressed. And you only need one person to say at the end of a call, "Thank you very much. I feel so much better for talking to you." And you go home and think, yes, that's why I do it.
Wow. And we hear more and more about the increase in elderly people who live at home, who maybe have no contact, no family. Do you get many calls from older people?
We do get some old people who are lonely, but since the start of probably Silver Line, I think that's possibly filled in a gap for the lonely. So if they just want to chat. Because we're not really there just for a chat. We're there to provide emotional support.
So Silver Line is a line available for anybody older living at home. They can contact them. Right, we'll get you a number for that one. And so in the time that you've been with the Samaritans and over the years, I mean, do you take calls from children?
We don't get many calls from children, and then we have a different setup if a child does ring up. The deputy director has got to be informed because there is a confidentiality problem there, that if a child is in danger, then we can't usually, there is a procedure to go through.
Right. And does it take a special person, do you think, to become a volunteer? I mean, if we're going to be talking about volunteers and getting involved, somebody listening now, what would you advise them to think about maybe before they apply to become a volunteer, say, with the Samaritans?
Whether you've got the commitment, whether you can listen.
That's a big part, isn't it?
Yes. It sounds obvious.
Yes, it does, doesn't it?
But it isn't obvious.
No.
We listen to the callers. We don't necessarily talk to the callers. We do talk, that sounds silly, but we don't talk at them. We are there to listen to their problem, let them get it off the chest, and avoid giving advice, which can be sometimes quite difficult.
Right. Because
sometimes the answer to their problem is blatantly obvious to you, but what is the right answer for me might not necessarily be the right answer for the caller. So you've got to get them to let them make their own mind up, and that can be quite difficult.
And I mean, after you've done the initial training, is there a kind of probationary period when someone is with you?
I'll start at the beginning. If anybody out there is interested in becoming a volunteer, then the first thing to do is turn up to an information night, and our next information night is a week today, 11th of June, at St Wilfrid Street. You come along to that. It lasts about an hour and a half, where Rachel and her team will give you a basic outline of what we do. If you are still interested after that, you fill in an application form. Then you come along to what we call Selection Day, which is on a Sunday. And the selection team then throw all sorts of scenarios at you to see how you would cope. Ask you quite a lot of questions to see how you tick, really. To see whether Samaritans is right for you and whether you're right for Samaritans. Now, if it sounds honest, but it isn't. If you get through that, we don't fail many people, we don't reject many people, then you go on to training. And then that involves one Sunday, full Sunday, then 6, at the moment we're doing them on Monday nights, so it's 6 Monday nights in a row, and then one final Sunday, which that's your training. After you've done your training period, you then get assigned a mentor, which is obviously an experienced Sam, and you do duties with them for as long as it takes so that they feel that you're capable of taking calls, which probably takes about 6 weeks. At first you listen to them doing calls, and then when you feel ready and your mentor feels you're ready, then the roles are reversed. You take calls and they listen,
right,
and help you help the new Sam, if they get a difficult call. After that, you're going to become what we call a probationary Sam, until you've done a little bit more training, and then you're allowed to go solo and go on your own. You can go take call solo while you're a P, but we try not to have, I'm getting complicated now, try not to have two Ps on together.
And how often do you do a duty, usually?
What we ask people to, when they sign up to become a Samaritans, is that you do 15 hours a month, which usually equates to 3 shifts and then a longer overnight shift. We do, unless it's exceptional circumstances, expect everybody to do an unsociable hours shift in a month.
So after the years that you've now been with the Samaritans, and I mean you look back over those years, for people who are now listening and maybe thinking of volunteer, what would the message to them? I mean, what do you yourself get out of volunteering? We often talk about that, that somebody gives lots of time up, they volunteer. Is there something that it gives to you from the volunteering angle?
Yes, it's very funny to put a word on it, because you can't say you enjoy listening to other people's problems, but it is very, very rewarding. Like I said before, at the end of a call, if somebody says to me, "Thank you very much, I don't know what I'd have done if I hadn't talked to you, I was at my wit's end," then when you put the phone down, you do get this yes, and it does give you a lift. And you do feel like you're giving something back to society, and it does become part of your life. And once you've done the training, we always say, you'll never be the same person again, because you look at life differently.
Yes, I'm sure. So, Margaret, just tell us again about the evening coming up. A week tonight, did you say?
A week tonight, St Wilfrid Street, 11 St Wilfrid Street. It's 7:30. Rachel and her team will be happy to meet anybody there who would like to come and have a listen. They show a short, we used to say video, but it's a DVD now, isn't it? Get with it, Margaret. So that's a short presentation, and then there's a question and answers session, and then you can go away and think about whether what you've heard is what you want and whether you think you could do it. But at any time in the training, or during the time you're a mentee or a P, or even any time you're a listening volunteer, if you suddenly find it's not for you, then you're quite at liberty to walk away.
And people, if they can't get along a week tonight, I take it they can probably go online to find out more?
Yes, if you go to www.samaritans.org, that's the national website, but it will direct you to the Preston branch eventually. But we do hold information nights once a month. We try and change the dates so that if a Wednesday's not good for you, then there'll be one on a Thursday, or so occasionally Rachel does them on a Sunday as well.
Brilliant. Can I thank you for coming in this morning?
Thank you very much for having me. I hope to come again and beg for money maybe next time.
Well,
because apart from volunteers, the other thing that we always need is funds.
Right, well, we will book you back in to come back on air and talk to us again then. And you mentioned the Silver Line, which is a helpline for older people. And the telephone number for the Silver Line is 0800 470 8090. So that's for older people who maybe just want to talk to somebody. It's 0800 470 8090, and that's the Silver Line. And the number for the Samaritans is 08457 909 090. And I think Margaret just wants to say something to me.
I would just say the Silver Line is there for just a chat line, but if any older person has a problem, or an emotional problem, then please ring us, because Silver Line is just a chat line.
Brilliant. Okay, and again, the number then for the Samaritans is 08457 909 090. And Margaret, once again, thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
Made by people like you.
Your community.
Your radio. Your Preston FM.